The ballroom of the Sterling Grand Hotel glittered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers. Soft piano music floated through the room while waiters moved between beautifully decorated tables, carrying glasses of champagne and plates of carefully prepared food. At the center of the ballroom was a large birthday cake decorated with white roses and gold lettering. It read, "Happy 40th birthday, Zara." Zara Bennett smiled as she looked around the room. She had never expected anything this elaborate. Her husband, Mel Lawson, had told her they were only having a small birthday dinner with a few close friends. But there were more than 100 guests. Her friends. Her family. Business associates. Several of Mel's colleagues from Sterling Vale Enterprises, the company he had built over the past 11 years. Even people Zara hadn't seen in years were there. She turned toward her husband. "Mel, you lied to me." Mel smiled. "Technically, I just didn't tell you everything." Zara laughed. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. For a moment, she felt incredibly lucky. She and Mel had been married for 12 years. They had met when Zara was 27 and Mel was 31. They dated for 2 years before getting married. Their marriage had not always been perfect, but Zara believed they had built something strong. They had survived financial problems, business problems, family disagreements, and difficult years when Mel was trying to establish his company. Zara had been there through all of it. She had even postponed several of her own plans to support him while Sterling Vale Enterprises was struggling to survive. Now, 11 years after Mel founded the company, they were financially comfortable. They had a beautiful home. They traveled. They attended charity events. And from the outside, they looked like one of those couples who had somehow figured everything out. But recently, something had changed. For almost 2 weeks, Mel had been acting strangely. He had become quieter. He started keeping his phone face down whenever Zara entered the room. He had also taken several late-night calls and walked outside to answer them. Whenever Zara asked what was happening, he always gave the same answer. Work. Nothing more. Still, she hadn't wanted to accuse him of anything. Tonight was her birthday. She wanted to enjoy it. She wanted to believe everything was fine. The orchestra suddenly stopped playing. Zara looked up. The room became quiet. Mel slowly stood from his chair. Zara smiled. "What's happening?" Mel didn't answer. Instead, one of the waiters approached their table carrying a large cream-colored envelope. It was tied with a dark blue ribbon. The waiter placed it directly in front of Zara. She looked at Mel. "What's this?" Mel smiled faintly. "Your real birthday present." Zara laughed. "You've been acting suspicious for 2 weeks just because of this?" Several guests laughed with her. Mel didn't. That was the first thing Zara noticed. His smile looked forced. She reached for the envelope. "Can I open it?" Mel nodded. "Go ahead." Zara carefully untied the ribbon. She opened the envelope. Inside was a thick stack of papers. At first, she thought they were documents for a new car. Or perhaps a property. Maybe Mel had surprised her with a vacation. She lifted the first page. Her eyes moved across the heading. Then stopped. Her smile disappeared. She read it again. Slowly. Carefully. As if the words might change if she looked at them long enough. They didn't. At the top of the page were the words. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Zara stopped breathing. The noise in the ballroom seemed to disappear. She looked at Mel. He was sitting calmly across from her. "Mel." He didn't answer. Zara's fingers began to tremble. "What is this?" Mel leaned back in his chair. Then he said quietly. "Happy birthday, Zara." Her eyes widened. "You can't be serious." Mel looked toward the guests. More than 100 people were watching them now. Some were confused. Others had already realized something was wrong. Zara lowered her voice. "Mel, please." He stood. Then he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. Zara expected him to pull out another gift. Instead, he pulled out a microphone. Her heart sank. "Mel, don't." He turned toward the crowd. "For 12 years, everyone in this room has believed Zara and I had a perfect marriage." Zara slowly stood. "Please don't do this." Mel looked at her. And for the first time that evening, the warmth disappeared completely from his face. "I think it's time everyone knew the truth." A woman at the nearest table covered her mouth. Someone stopped eating. Another guest quietly picked up a phone. Zara stared at her husband. She couldn't understand what was happening. They had been married for 12 years. They had celebrated birthdays together. Christmases. Anniversaries. Family gatherings. Business victories. Hard times. And now, on her 40th birthday, her husband was standing in front of more than 100 people with divorce papers. But what Zara didn't know was that the divorce papers were not the biggest secret Mel had brought into that ballroom. There was another envelope. And it contained something that would eventually make Zara question everything she thought she knew about her husband. But before that envelope was opened, Mel was about to say something that would change the entire room. He raised the microphone. And said. For 12 years, I have been pretending to be happy. Zara's heart shattered. And the ballroom went completely silent. For several seconds, nobody moved. The orchestra members sat frozen with their instruments in their hands. The waiters stopped walking. Even the soft clinking of glasses had disappeared. Every eye in the ballroom was fixed on Mel and Zara. Zara stared at her husband as though she were seeing a stranger. You're pretending to be happy? Her voice was barely audible. Mel didn't answer immediately. He looked around the room. His parents were seated at the head table. His business partner sat nearby. Several of Zara's closest friends were watching with expressions of disbelief. Then Mel lifted the microphone again. Yes. Zara swallowed hard. But why? Mel's jaw tightened. Because I've spent years living a life that wasn't mine. A few guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Zara shook her head. Mel, whatever you're angry about, we can talk about it at home. No. His answer came immediately. Tonight, everyone deserves to know. Zara's eyes filled with tears. Know what? Mel looked directly at her. That I haven't been happy for years. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Zara slowly looked around. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. She had never felt so exposed. Then why didn't you tell me? Mel gave a bitter laugh. I tried. When? More times than you realize. Zara shook her head. No. You didn't. Mel's voice became louder. You made every decision for us. Zara stared at him. That's not true. You decided where we lived. Because you were working 18-hour days when we bought the house. You decided where we traveled. Because you asked me to plan our vacations. You decided who we spent time with. Because you always said you were too tired to organize anything. Mel shook his head. You see? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Zara couldn't believe what she was hearing. For years, she had thought they were working together. Now he was presenting every sacrifice she had made as evidence against her. Then Mel said something that made her stomach turn. I stopped being your husband a long time ago. Zara's lips parted. What? I became your employee. Several guests gasped. Zara wiped a tear from her cheek. Mel, I supported you. And I never asked you to. That sentence hurt more than everything else. Zara looked down at the divorce papers. Her hands were shaking. Did you already sign these? Mel nodded. Yes. When? 2 weeks ago. Zara's eyes widened. 2 weeks? She suddenly remembered. 2 weeks ago, Mel had started behaving strangely. 2 weeks ago, he had begun taking secret phone calls. 2 weeks ago, he had stopped sleeping beside her. 2 weeks ago, he had told her he was working late. She looked at him. That's why you've been acting differently. Mel didn't answer. Zara stepped closer. Is there someone else? The question hung in the air. Mel's expression changed for half a second. It was almost impossible to notice. But Zara noticed. Mel? He looked away. I didn't bring you here to discuss another woman. Another woman. Zara's heart sank. She hadn't imagined it. There was something else. Before she could ask another question, a voice came from behind them. Mel. Everyone turned. It was Victor Lawson, Mel's father. The 62-year-old founder of the Lawson family business had remained unusually quiet throughout the entire confrontation. He stood slowly. His face was expressionless. That's enough. Mel turned toward him. No, Dad. Victor's eyes narrowed. You've said enough. Mel laughed. Funny. You didn't say that when you helped me prepare everything. Zara froze. She looked from Mel to Victor. Helped you? Victor didn't answer. Zara's heart began pounding again. What does that mean? Mel looked at his father. Victor gave him a warning stare. But Mel continued. My father knows exactly why I'm ending this marriage. Zara looked at Victor. Why? Victor finally spoke. Because your marriage has become a liability. Zara stared at him. A liability? Victor nodded. For the company. The room became even quieter. Zara felt a chill run through her. What does my marriage have to do with Sterling Vale Enterprises? Victor didn't answer. Mel lowered the microphone. And that was when Zara noticed something. Victor wasn't angry about the divorce. He was afraid of something. His eyes weren't focused on Mel. They were focused on the envelope sitting in front of Zara. the envelope containing the divorce papers. Then Victor said something that made Zara's blood run cold. Mel, don't give her the second envelope. Zara slowly turned toward her husband. Second envelope? Mel froze. Victor realized his mistake. Zara looked at the table. There was another envelope beside the first one. It had been hidden underneath the birthday decorations. She reached for it. Mel immediately stepped forward. Zara, don't. She stopped. For the first time that night, her husband's voice wasn't angry. It was frightened. Zara looked at him. Why? Mel stared at the envelope. Then at his father. Then back at Zara. And finally, he whispered. Because once you open that envelope, there is no going back. Zara's fingers tightened around it. She looked at the more than 100 people watching her. Then she slowly began to untie the ribbon. And whatever was inside was about to reveal a secret that had been hidden from her for 3 years. Zara stood completely still. Her fingers were wrapped around the second envelope. She could feel the eyes of everyone in the ballroom following her. But she wasn't looking at them anymore. She was looking at Mel. Her husband. The man she had shared 12 years of her life with. The man who had just handed her divorce papers on her 40th birthday. And now he was terrified of whatever was inside this envelope. Zara slowly looked at Victor. Why did you say there was a second envelope? Victor's expression hardened. I made a mistake. A mistake? Zara gave a short, nervous laugh. You've been standing here while your son publicly destroys our marriage, and the thing you're worried about is an envelope? Victor said nothing. Zara turned back toward Mel. What is inside? Mel took a step toward her. Zara, please give it to me. No. Her answer was immediate. Mel stopped. Zara pulled the envelope closer to her chest. You've already made enough decisions for me tonight. She looked directly into his eyes. This one is mine. Several guests murmured quietly. Mel lowered his voice. You don't understand. Then explain it. I can't. Why? Mel looked toward his father. Victor's face was tense. Zara noticed. There was something between them. Something she had never seen before. A silent conversation. A warning. A secret. Zara slowly opened the envelope. Inside were several documents. The first was a bank statement. She looked at the account name. Her eyebrows pulled together. Sterling Vale Enterprises. She looked at the date. 3 years earlier. Then she saw the amount. Her eyes widened. It was an enormous transfer. Millions of dollars. She turned to Mel. What is this? Mel didn't answer. Zara picked up another page. Another transfer. Same company. Different account. Then another. And another. All of them were dated between 3 years ago and the present. She looked at Victor. Why was money being transferred out of the company? Victor stepped forward. Those are confidential financial documents. Zara laughed in disbelief. Confidential? She lifted the papers. They were in my birthday envelope. Victor's expression remained cold. Give them to me. No. Zara stepped backward. Not until somebody explains what I'm looking at. Mel finally spoke. Zara. She looked at him. Did you know about this? Mel hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Zara's face changed. You knew. Mel looked down. I knew something was wrong. Something? She held up the documents. There are millions of dollars missing. It's complicated. No, Mel. Her voice became stronger. It's not complicated. She pointed toward the documents. Money went out of your company. Then she looked at Victor. And somehow you both knew about it. Victor's face hardened. You were making accusations without understanding the situation. Zara shook her head. Then help me understand. Nobody spoke. Zara picked up another document. It was a company registration record. The name on it made her stop. Northbridge Advisory Group. She had never heard of the company. She looked at Mel. What's Northbridge? Mel's face went pale. Victor immediately stepped forward. That document should not be here. Zara looked at him. Why? Victor didn't answer. She looked at Mel. Who owns Northbridge Advisory Group? Mel remained silent. Zara's voice dropped. Mel. He finally whispered. My father. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Zara stared at Victor. You transferred Sterling Vale money into a company you own? Victor shook his head. That isn't what happened. Then what happened? Victor said nothing. Zara looked back at the documents. There were dozens of transactions. Some were small. Others were enormous. Then she noticed something else. Every transfer had been approved using Mel's authorization code. She looked at her husband. You approved these? Mel shook his head. No. Your authorization code is right here. Someone used it. Who? Mel didn't answer. Zara's breathing became heavier. Who used your authorization code? Mel looked toward his father. Victor's expression changed. And Zara understood. You. She looked at Victor. You used your son's authorization. Victor's voice became sharp. Be careful. Zara didn't back down. No. She stepped closer. I've spent 12 years being careful. The room became silent. I was careful with your son. I was careful with this family. I was careful with your business. And tonight you stood here and allowed your son to make me look like the villain in front of everyone. Her voice cracked. But now I want the truth. Victor stared at her. Then he said. You don't know what you're asking for. Zara answered. Then tell me. Victor looked toward Mel. Mel looked down. And finally Victor said something that made Zara's heart stop. The money wasn't stolen. Zara frowned. What? Victor continued. It was moved. Moved where? Victor looked directly at her. Into an account that belongs to you. Zara froze. The ballroom went silent. What? Victor repeated. The missing money is connected to an account in your name. Zara stared at him. No. Mel immediately stepped forward. Zara, listen to me. She turned toward him. You knew? I knew about the account. Her face went pale. You knew there was an account in my name? I didn't know what it was being used for. Zara shook her head. Then why didn't you tell me? Mel's eyes filled with guilt. Because I was trying to protect you. Zara laughed bitterly. Everyone keeps saying that. She looked around the room. Protect me from what? No one answered. Then a man sitting near the back of the ballroom slowly stood. Zara recognized him. He was Marcus Reed, the former financial director of Sterling Vale Enterprises. 3 years earlier, Mel had told her Marcus had been dismissed for financial misconduct. But Marcus had never admitted to stealing anything. He had simply disappeared from the company. Now he stood in the middle of the ballroom. His face was serious. Zara. Everyone turned toward him. Mel's eyes widened. Marcus, don't. Marcus ignored him. He looked directly at Zara. There's something you need to know. Victor immediately shouted. Security. But Marcus reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small black flash drive. I kept a copy. Victor's face suddenly lost its color. Marcus looked at Zara. The documents in that envelope aren't the whole story. Zara stared at the flash drive. What is on it? Marcus took a breath. Proof that someone has been stealing from Sterling Vale Enterprises for the last 3 years. Zara's heart pounded. And who? Marcus looked directly at Victor. Then at Mel. Then back at Zara. The person responsible isn't who you think. Before he could say another word, the ballroom doors suddenly opened. 2 investigators walked inside. Everyone turned. One of them held up an official document. Mr. Lawson. Mel looked at them. Yes? We need to speak with you. Zara's heart sank. But then the investigator said the words that changed everything. Not about the divorce. He looked toward Victor. We're here because of a financial investigation involving Sterling Vale Enterprises. Victor's face went completely blank. Zara slowly turned toward her father-in-law. And for the first time that night, she realized something terrifying. Her birthday party hadn't been planned simply to end her marriage. It had been planned to make her take the blame for something she hadn't done. And someone had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. The ballroom fell into complete silence. 2 investigators stood near the entrance while the guests stared at them. Nobody touched their food. Nobody spoke. Even the orchestra had stopped playing. Zara looked from the investigators to Victor. Then to Mel. Her mind was racing. The investigator holding the document stepped forward. My name is Detective Aaron Cole. This is Investigator Renee Brooks. He showed his identification. We're conducting an investigation into financial transactions involving Sterling Vale Enterprises. Victor immediately stepped forward. This is a private family event. Detective Cole looked at him calmly. Unfortunately, Mr. Lawson, the investigation concerns company funds. Victor's jaw tightened. My attorneys will handle this. We expected that. The detective looked toward Mel. Mr. Lawson, we need you to answer some questions. Mel nodded slowly. Of course. Zara stared at him. Mel. He turned toward her. I didn't know they were coming. She studied his face. For the first time all evening, she believed him. But that raised another question. If Mel didn't know, who had called them? Then Marcus spoke. I did. Everyone turned. Mel's eyes widened. You? Marcus nodded. I contacted them yesterday. Victor immediately moved toward him. You had no right. Marcus didn't move. I had every right. He looked around the ballroom. For 3 years, I was called a thief. His voice shook with anger. I lost my job. I lost friends. My reputation was destroyed. And every time I tried to tell people what happened, someone made sure nobody listened. Zara stared at him. Why didn't you come to me? Marcus looked at her sadly. Because I was afraid you'd be blamed too. Zara frowned. Why me? Marcus glanced at Mel. Then at Victor. Because your name was already inside the financial records. Zara felt a chill. So the account in my name. Marcus nodded. Was created without your knowledge. Zara looked at Mel. You knew about it. Mel swallowed. Yes. How long? About 8 months. Zara's face hardened. 8 months? Mel nodded. But I didn't know who created it. You could have told me. I was trying to find out first. Zara shook her head. You should have trusted me. I know. Victor suddenly interrupted. This is ridiculous. Detective Cole looked at him. Mr. Lawson, we need you to remain here. Victor stopped. Are you ordering me? Yes. The room became tense. Victor slowly stepped back. Detective Cole turned toward Zara. Mrs. Lawson, we need to ask you something. Zara nodded. Okay. Have you ever opened a bank account connected to Northbridge Advisory Group? No. Have you ever signed financial documents for Northbridge? No. Have you ever authorized transfers from Sterling Vale Enterprises to an account bearing your name? Never. The detective looked at his colleague. Renee Brooks opened a folder. We have copies of documents containing what appears to be your signature. Zara's heart sank. My signature? She looked at the pages. There it was. Her name. Her signature. But something was wrong. She stared at it. I didn't sign this. Detective Cole nodded. That's what we believe. Zara looked confused. Then who did? Marcus stepped forward. I know. Everyone turned toward him. Marcus pulled out his laptop. I spent 3 years trying to prove that those signatures were forged. He connected the flash drive. A large screen at the front of the ballroom flickered to life. Documents appeared. Then dates. Then transaction records. Zara watched in disbelief. Marcus pointed at the screen. These transactions began exactly 3 years ago. Zara remembered that period. 3 years ago, Mel had been expanding Sterling Vale Enterprises. He had been traveling constantly. She had been spending most of her time at home helping care for Mel's mother after a serious surgery. Zara looked at the dates. The first transfer happened 3 years and 2 months ago. The second happened 3 weeks later. Then another. Then another. All of them carried her name. But Zara had never seen any of them. Marcus changed the screen. A scanned document appeared. This is the original authorization. Zara stared. There was her name. But beneath the signature was a date. She immediately recognized the problem. Wait. Everyone looked at her. Zara pointed to the document. This date is wrong. Marcus looked at her. How? I wasn't in the city that day. Mel frowned. Where were you? Chicago. Zara's voice became more confident. Your mother's surgery. Mel's eyes widened. He remembered. 3 years earlier, his mother had undergone surgery in Chicago. Zara had stayed there for 9 days. She had hotel records. Flight records. Hospital records. And photographs. She couldn't possibly have signed that document in person. Marcus nodded. Exactly. Detective Cole looked at the document again. That's one of the reasons we believe the signature was forged. Zara exhaled. But why use my name? Nobody answered. Then Marcus said. Because whoever did it needed someone who would be trusted. Zara slowly looked at Victor. He stared back at her. But this time, his expression wasn't angry. It was calculating. Zara suddenly remembered something. Victor. He said nothing. You asked me for my identification 3 years ago. Mel looked at his father. What? Victor's face tightened. Zara continued. It was shortly before the first transfer. She looked at Victor. You said the company needed updated family records. Victor shook his head. I don't remember that. I do. Zara's voice trembled. You took copies of my driver's license and passport. Mel's face changed. He turned toward his father. Dad. Victor remained silent. Mel stepped closer. Did you take her documents? Victor didn't answer. Did you use them? Still nothing. Then Detective Cole stepped between them. Mr. Lawson, I think you should have your attorney present before answering that question. Victor's expression darkened. But before anyone could say another word, Renee Brooks' phone rang. She answered. Yes? She listened. Her expression changed. Then she looked at Detective Cole. We found the second account. Detective Cole's eyes narrowed. Where? Renee looked at Zara. Overseas. Zara's stomach dropped. Whose name? Renee hesitated. Then said. Zara Bennett. The room erupted in whispers again. Zara shook her head. No. Mel immediately moved toward her. Zara, listen to me. She stepped back. No. Her voice broke. I didn't do this. I know. Then why is my name everywhere? Mel didn't have an answer. Renee looked at her file. There is something else. Everyone turned toward her. The account was opened using Zara's identity. She paused. But the person who accessed it. Renee looked directly at Victor. Used a device registered to Mel Lawson. Mel's face went pale. Zara stared at her husband. Your device? Mel shook his head. I didn't do it. Zara couldn't speak. Then Marcus suddenly stepped forward. Wait. Everyone looked at him. Marcus stared at the screen. That device registration. He looked at Mel. Where was your phone 3 years ago? Mel thought for a moment. Then his face changed. He looked at his father. My phone was with you. Victor's eyes widened. The room went silent. Mel whispered. Because I gave it to you when I went to Chicago. Zara's eyes filled with tears. Everything was beginning to connect. The forged signatures. The stolen identity. The company transfers. The overseas account. Mel's device. And Victor. But there was still one question. Why had Mel publicly divorced Zara? Why tonight? Why on her 40th birthday? Detective Cole closed his folder. We're going to continue this investigation. He looked at Victor. Mr. Lawson, you're coming with us. Victor didn't move. Then he looked at Mel. And his face changed completely. The cold businessman disappeared. Instead, he looked like a desperate father. Son. Mel stared at him. Victor whispered. You don't understand what will happen if you let them take me. Mel's voice was cold. You should have thought about that before you used my wife. Victor's eyes moved toward Zara. And then he said something that made everyone freeze. I didn't use her. He paused. I was protecting her. Zara stared at him. Protecting me? Victor nodded. Because if the wrong people discover what your name is connected to. He looked directly into her eyes. They won't just come after your money. He took a breath. They'll come after you. Zara felt a chill run through her entire body. And suddenly, the financial scandal didn't seem like the biggest danger anymore. Because someone outside the Lawson family knew about the account. Someone who had been waiting for the money. And that person had just discovered that Zara knew the truth. The ballroom remained frozen. Victor's final words echoed through Zara's mind. They won't just come after your money. They'll come after you. Zara stared at him. Who? Victor didn't answer. Detective Cole stepped closer. Mr. Lawson, you need to come with us. Victor looked at Mel. Son, please. Mel didn't move. You made your choice. Victor's expression hardened. You don't know what you're doing. Mel shook his head. No, Dad. He looked toward Zara. For 12 years, I thought I was protecting my family by keeping your secrets. His voice cracked. But all I did was put my wife in danger. Victor looked away. Detective Cole placed a hand on his arm. Let's go. As Victor was escorted toward the ballroom entrance, Zara suddenly noticed something. He wasn't looking at the detectives. He wasn't looking at Mel. He was looking at her. And there was something in his eyes that frightened her. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Real fear. Then Victor whispered. Zara. She looked at him. Find the blue folder. Zara frowned. What blue folder? But Victor was already being taken away. The ballroom doors closed behind him. Zara stood motionless. Mel walked toward her. What did he say? She looked at her husband. He told me to find a blue folder. Mel's face changed. Where? I don't know. Mel suddenly looked toward the head table. Then toward the private hallway leading to the hotel's conference rooms. Stay here. Zara grabbed his arm. No. Mel looked at her. I'm not letting you out of my sight. She shook her head. After everything that happened tonight, you're not leaving me behind. Mel hesitated. Then nodded. Okay. Marcus walked toward them. I know where the folder might be. Zara turned. Where? Marcus lowered his voice. 3 years ago, when I was still working for Sterling Vale, Victor kept a private records room. Where? At the company's old headquarters. Mel frowned. We sold that building 2 years ago. Marcus nodded. I know. Then the records are gone. Marcus shook his head. Not all of them. He pulled out his phone. There was a storage room beneath the old building. Zara stared at him. How do you know? Marcus looked at Mel. Because I helped Victor move the records there. Mel's expression darkened. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know what was inside. Marcus looked at Zara. Until tonight. The old headquarters. 40 minutes later, Zara, Mel, and Marcus arrived at the old Sterling Vale building. It was almost midnight. The building had been empty for nearly 2 years. The windows were dark. Dust covered the entrance. Zara looked up at the abandoned structure. Why would Victor keep records here? Marcus answered quietly. Because nobody comes here anymore. Mel unlocked the old side entrance. They walked inside. Their footsteps echoed through the empty hallway. Zara stayed close to Mel. For the first time since the birthday party began, she didn't care about the divorce papers. She wanted answers. They reached a staircase. Marcus pointed downward. The storage room is in the basement. They descended. At the bottom was a heavy metal door. Marcus pulled out an old key. The lock clicked. The door opened. Inside were dozens of boxes. Financial records. Company files. Old computers. And documents covered in dust. Zara looked around. Where do we start? Marcus pointed toward the back. There. A blue folder sat alone on top of a metal cabinet. Zara's heart started pounding. She walked toward it. She picked it up. There was no name on the front. Only one word. Zara. She looked at Mel. Why would my name be on this? Mel didn't answer. Zara opened the folder. The first document was a copy of her passport. The second was a copy of her driver's license. The third was a photograph. She stared at it. It showed her standing outside Sterling Vale's original headquarters. But the photograph was taken 3 years earlier. Zara frowned. I don't remember this. Marcus looked at the photograph. Because you weren't supposed to know about it. Zara turned the photograph over. There was writing on the back. A date. May 14, 2023. And beneath it. Phase 1 complete. Zara's blood ran cold. What does that mean? Mel took the photograph. He stared at it. I've never seen this. Marcus picked up another document. Then his face changed. Zara. What? He showed her the paper. It was a contract. Her name appeared at the bottom. But this time, there was something different. The signature was hers. Not forged. It looked exactly like her handwriting. Zara shook her head. I didn't sign that. Marcus looked confused. It's dated May 14, 2023. Zara immediately answered. I remember that day. Mel looked at her. What happened? Zara closed her eyes. Your father invited me to the office. Mel's expression changed. Why? He said he needed my help with a charity project. Marcus stared at her. Did you sign anything? No. Zara paused. At least. I don't remember signing anything. She looked at the document again. Then she noticed something. The signature wasn't at the bottom. It was on a separate page. And the page had been removed from a larger document. Marcus carefully examined it. This isn't a contract. What is it? He turned the page. It's a power of attorney. Zara's eyes widened. Power of attorney? Marcus nodded. Someone was given authority to act on your behalf. Mel looked at the document. Who? Marcus turned the page. The name was printed clearly. Victor Lawson. Zara stepped backward. No. Mel's face went pale. My father had legal authority over Zara? Marcus nodded. According to this document. Zara's mind raced. Why? Marcus looked at the remaining papers. I don't know. Then he found another document. His hands began to tremble. Wait. What? He held it up. This explains everything. Mel moved closer. What is it? Marcus looked at Zara. 3 years ago, Sterling Vale Enterprises was facing a major lawsuit. Zara nodded slowly. I remember. The company needed someone outside the company to hold certain assets temporarily. Mel frowned. Why wasn't I told? Marcus looked at him. Because your father didn't want you to know. Zara looked at the document. Why would he use my name? Marcus took a deep breath. Because your personal assets were being used as collateral. Zara's face went pale. My house? Marcus nodded. Your house? My savings? Yes. My investments? Yes. Zara looked at Mel. So if the company failed? Marcus finished the sentence. You would lose everything. Zara sat down on an old wooden box. She couldn't believe it. For 3 years, she had believed her marriage was financially secure. She had believed their home belonged to them. She had believed the company was successful. But someone had secretly placed her entire financial future at risk. And then Zara saw one final document. A termination notice. Dated 3 days ago. She picked it up. What is this? Marcus read it. His face became pale. Someone terminated the power of attorney. Zara looked at him. Who? Marcus pointed to the signature. It belonged to Mel. Zara slowly turned toward her husband. Did you sign this? Mel stared at the paper. I've never seen it. Zara's voice trembled. Then why does it have your signature? Mel had no answer. Marcus suddenly looked at the computer sitting on the table. Wait. He turned it on. The old machine took several seconds to start. Then a password screen appeared. Marcus entered a code. The computer unlocked. A folder appeared. Its name was Project Zara, Final Stage. Zara stared at the screen. Project Zara? Marcus opened it. Inside were hundreds of files. Financial records. Photographs. Audio recordings. Emails. And one video. Recorded exactly 3 days earlier. Marcus clicked it. The screen showed Victor sitting in a dark office. But he wasn't alone. There was another person sitting across from him. Zara leaned toward the screen. The person's face slowly became visible. Her breath stopped. She knew him. Mel knew him too. And the moment they recognized the man on the screen, they realized something terrifying. Victor had never been working alone. And the person sitting across from him was someone Zara trusted. The old computer screen continued playing. Zara stood behind Marcus, staring at the image of Victor Lawson sitting inside a dark office. The recording had been made 3 days earlier. Victor sat behind a large wooden desk. Across from him was another person. At first, the person's face was hidden in shadow. Then the person leaned forward. The light from the desk lamp revealed her face. Zara's breath caught. No. Mel stepped closer to the screen. His expression changed instantly. Kiara? Zara couldn't move. It was Kiara Brooks, her closest friend. The woman Zara had known for almost 15 years. The woman who had helped plan tonight's birthday celebration. The woman who had hugged Zara earlier that evening and told her how lucky she was to have a husband like Mel. The woman Zara had trusted with things she had never told anyone else. Zara slowly shook her head. That's not possible. Marcus paused the video. Mel looked at Zara. Do you recognize her? Zara stared at him. She's my best friend. Marcus looked at the screen again. Then we need to know why she was meeting your father. Zara couldn't answer. She felt sick. Kiara had known everything about her life. She knew about Zara's marriage. She knew about the company. She knew where Zara kept important documents. She knew about Zara's personal finances. She even knew the security code to Zara's house. But there was one thing Zara couldn't understand. Why would Kiara be working with Victor? Marcus restarted the video. Victor's voice came through the speakers. You promised me the transfer would be completed before tonight. Kiara answered. It will be. Victor leaned forward. And Zara? Kiara hesitated. She still doesn't suspect anything. Zara covered her mouth. Mel stared at the screen. Victor continued. Good. Kiara asked. And Mel? Victor smiled. Mel will do exactly what I need him to do. Zara turned toward her husband. Mel's face had gone completely pale. Marcus stopped the recording. Nobody spoke. Finally, Zara whispered. What does he mean? Mel shook his head. I don't know. You don't know? I swear. Zara looked at him. Then why did he say you would do exactly what he needed? Mel didn't answer. Marcus opened another file. I think we're about to find out. The 3-year plan. The folder contained a document titled Project Zara, Phase 1. Marcus opened it. The first page contained a timeline. Zara leaned closer. There were dates. Names. Financial transfers. Meetings. Everything had been carefully recorded. Marcus pointed to the first entry. May 14, 2023. Zara immediately remembered the date. That was the day Victor had asked her to come to the company office. Marcus continued. Phase 1 was gaining access to your identity documents. The next entry was dated June 2023. Phase 2 was establishing the accounts. Then, September 2023, Phase 3, transfer of company assets. Then, February 2024, Phase 4, create financial liability under Zara Bennett. Zara stared at the screen. This has been happening for 3 years. Marcus nodded. Exactly. She continued reading. Then she saw something that made her stomach turn. August 2025, Phase 5, destroy Zara's credibility inside the company. Zara looked at Mel. What happened in August 2025? Mel thought for a moment. Then his eyes widened. That's when the anonymous complaint was filed against you. Zara remembered. Someone had accused her of interfering with Sterling Vale's finances. The complaint had been dismissed because there wasn't enough evidence. She had thought it was simply a misunderstanding. But now she realized it had been planned. Marcus opened another file. Look at this. It was an email. The sender was hidden. But the recipient was Kiara. The message contained only one sentence. When the time comes, Mel must believe the divorce is his idea. Zara felt tears forming in her eyes. So the divorce. Marcus nodded. Was part of the plan. Mel stared at the screen. They wanted me to divorce her. Yes. Why? Marcus opened another file. This one contained a property list. Zara's house. Her investment accounts. Several properties she had inherited from her grandmother. Everything had been listed. Marcus explained. Once the divorce became public, the people behind this plan expected Zara to lose access to several assets. Zara looked at Mel. Because of the power of attorney. Marcus nodded. They intended to use the divorce to create a legal dispute over ownership. Mel's voice became quiet. So they weren't trying to end our marriage. Marcus looked at him. They were trying to separate you from Zara long enough to control the assets. Zara suddenly remembered something. Wait. Everyone looked at her. There was a meeting. When? About 2 weeks ago. She looked at Mel. You told me you were meeting your attorney. Mel nodded. I was. Who arranged the meeting? Mel thought. Kiara. Zara's heart sank. She told you which attorney to use? Yes. Marcus looked at the screen. That's it. He opened another document. The attorney's name appeared. Graham Pierce. Marcus stared at it. I know him. Mel frowned. From where? He represented Sterling Vale 3 years ago. Zara's eyes widened. Why would he be involved in my divorce? Marcus looked at her. He shouldn't be. Mel suddenly stepped away from the computer. I need to call him. Marcus grabbed his arm. Don't. Why? Because if he's involved, he'll know we found out. Mel stopped. Zara looked at the screen again. There were hundreds of files. Then she noticed one labeled. Final stage, August 13, 2026. Today's date. Her heart began pounding. She clicked it. A single document opened. There were only 3 lines. Divorce announcement, completed. Financial transfer, pending. Zara removal, tonight. Zara's blood ran cold. Removal? Mel stared at the screen. What does that mean? Marcus didn't know. Zara suddenly remembered Victor's warning. They won't just come after your money. They'll come after you. Then another file appeared. It was an audio recording. Recorded only 6 hours earlier. Marcus pressed play. Victor's voice filled the room. If Zara opens the second envelope, we move to the final stage. Kiara's voice answered. And if she doesn't? Then Mel divorces her tonight and we proceed anyway. Zara's eyes filled with tears. The entire birthday party had been planned. The divorce papers. The public humiliation. The financial accusations. Everything. Then Victor said something else. If she discovers the overseas account, we have a problem. Kiara asked. Why? Victor answered. Because the account isn't the real secret. Marcus stopped the recording. Zara stared at him. What does that mean? Marcus slowly shook his head. I don't know. Mel looked at the computer. There must be another file. They searched through the folder. Nothing. Then Zara noticed something strange. One of the files was dated August 14, 2026. Tomorrow. She clicked it. A message appeared. If you're reading this, Victor failed. Zara's heart pounded. The next sentence appeared. Do not trust anyone who tells you the danger is over. Then a final line appeared. The person who can expose everything is closer to Zara than she realizes. Zara slowly turned toward Mel. He looked at her. I didn't write that. I know. Marcus stared at the screen. Then who did? Suddenly. Crash. A loud sound came from upstairs. Everyone froze. Mel immediately turned off the computer. What was that? Another sound. This time, footsteps. Someone was inside the abandoned building. Zara grabbed Mel's arm. Marcus whispered. We're not alone. The footsteps moved closer. Slowly. One floor down. Then another. Mel looked around the basement. There has to be another exit. Marcus pointed toward the back wall. There. They rushed toward it. But before they reached the door, the basement lights suddenly went out. Everything became completely dark. Zara heard someone whisper her name. Zara. She froze. The voice wasn't Mel. It wasn't Marcus. It was a woman's voice. A voice she knew. Then the emergency lights flickered on. And standing at the bottom of the staircase was Kiara. Zara stared at her best friend. Kiara looked terrified. She was holding something tightly in her hand. Zara's voice trembled. Kiara. Kiara looked at her. I'm sorry. Zara took a step forward. For what? Kiara's eyes filled with tears. For helping them. Zara's heart sank. Mel moved in front of his wife. Who? Kiara looked at him. Then at Zara. And whispered. Your father isn't the person you need to be afraid of. She raised the object in her hand. It was a key. A much more powerful person has been controlling this entire thing. Zara stared at her. Who? Kiara swallowed. Then she said. Your own mother.